For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of USC's 41-14 victory over the Arizona Wildcats. Now, Dan, coming into this game, we knew that USC would have to use their backups. Those guys would have to stand up just because there were so many injuries coming into this game. But I don't think anyone would have predicted how much USC's backups were used in this game. They have the motto, next man up, and that really played out tonight.
Yeah, I mean, in every way you look at it. I mean, and it kind of played into how this game went. I think in general, USC's backups probably bring more speed to the game. I think they coached them. They knew they had to play fast because Khalil Tate and J.J. Taylor, the number 9, offense in the country, and so they emphasized all the things that they needed to do, and they had younger kids and they had more speed on the field on both sides of the ball. And it played out very well for USC tonight.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Arizona came in with a number 9 ranked offense, and USC essentially pitched a shutout. The 2 touchdowns came when USC put in their, backups to their backups, the third-string guys. Clay Elden said that they watched NFL tape to see how to handle Khalil Tate, so they pretty much shut him down. What's your evaluation of this defensive performance?
Yeah, I know Coach Chad, for example, said, you guys don't get to see us practice, but we added an extra period of tackling drills and stuff that we were doing, and they also added a speed package. So in passing situations and all of that, they really got after. They were able to run Khalil Tate down. They were able to run J.J. Taylor down. They had guys, Hunter Echols, and they moved Drake Jackson inside, and they had a lot of speed. Christian Rector, for example, isn't out there with that sprained ankle. So the young guys that they've got going in, they can fly. Abdul Malik McClain, who ended up hurting his shoulder, those guys were really getting after it, and all the kids in the secondary. You felt like, Dwayne Hewitt, for example, got a start, and he just said, I think I did pretty well. He said, I was nervous the first series, but he said, I thought I played, didn't make any mistakes, and he said a lot of our guys, we felt really good about our performance, as they should.
Yeah. A guy who had a monster night on defense was Canin Malaga. 13 tackles, which led the team. He also forced a fumble and had an interception. A monster night for him, and he was someone who was backing up Palaie Naioteote. What do you do with that development now that you have a guy like Canin show out tonight?
Well, I mean, I was just thinking it from the standpoint of the Arizona coaches, thinking, who the heck is that guy? He's 13 tackles, a player of the game. I mean, I think we all knew Canin, he has that kind of ability, but he was everywhere. He was, rushing the quarterback. He was dropping back and intercepting passes. He was forcing fumbles. I mean, he did, what didn't he do? And I don't think there's ever been much of a doubt that he was that kind of a player. Again, he just hasn't gotten a chance. He's not the only one that hasn't had a chance till somebody got hurt. But it's those kinds of performances that convince you, yeah, this USC team's pretty talented.
Yeah.
And if you're Arizona, you just look at that film and just say, where are these guys coming from? We've never seen. I mean, the Arizona beat reporters were like, after the game, they're saying, I don't even know these guys' names. Who are they?
Now, that's a perfect setup for Keenan Kristin, but I'm actually going to ask you one more question about the defense. When you see how well this team plays with speed, with different packages that they use in this game, do you reevaluate, if you're USC's coaches, what you do for the rest of the season, given, 1, the injuries, but 2, how well they played?
Well, I think they're playing different kinds of teams. They're not playing the Notre Dames and the Washingtons and BYUs, for example. But I think they think that the way they played tonight will more be in line with the teams they're playing. They're going to play more, speeded up and up tempo and teams that rely on speed. So I think this is more the direction they're going to be going. I mean, Colorado and Oregon and those teams, I think you'll see more of this. So now we'll see how many guys are healthy and how many they can go with. But to this point, this was impressive. Just the way the guys out there felt confident and comfortable, and it looked like they knew what they were doing. I just loved the way they were moving around on defense. They just looked like, we got this. We know what we're doing. We've got this figured out. We're going to be okay. And they really were.
Yeah. Now, another guy who had speed and probably made the Arizona coaches go, who was this guy? Was Keenan Kristin, the true freshman speedster. We knew he had speed. It was advertised when he committed to USC, but he really made his debut tonight. 2 touchdowns on the night, one for a 55-yarder. We talked to Jalen McKenzie, the guard, today, and he said that usually they pull him on that play that one of the 55-yard touchdown was. He said if you look at it, Vavai Malapai, Stephen Carr both had a chance to do that, but it wasn't successful. With Keenan, it was successful just because of that speed off on that edge when he seals it. So what do you take away from a dazzling debut for the true freshman?
Yeah, I mean, I know people were, batting around the name. He's from San Diego. I know people were kind of batting the name of Reggie Bush around. And I said, well, there's a big difference. He's faster than Reggie Bush. I go, oh, yes, he is. He's the fastest high school football track athlete in the history of California. And when you think of all the athletes, all the great athletes who played football and run track, this kid's the fastest. Yeah. So, I mean, he's a kid where guys, coaches, players were saying, uh-oh, touchdown. He got through that first level, and they said, well, that guy's not going to get over. Safety's not going to get over. He's going to beat him. And he's got the angle and all of that. I know people are going to be asking the question after 2 freshmen scored 3 touchdowns tonight, and Marquis Stepp, what an unbelievable cutback that he made. Was it from the 12-yard line, I guess? And he shed a linebacker who got in unblocked and got him in the backfield. He just shed him, planted, and cut 12 yards right up the middle and just ran by everybody. So those are 2 pretty darn good freshmen. Yeah. I mean, Keenan Kristin might be. I would guess he's the fastest player in the Pac-12. Might be the fastest player in college football. It's kind of nice to get him on the field and get the ball in his hands because you can't teach that. You almost can't coach it. You just
let it go.
Just get him in situations where maybe you run him inside a bunch of times and there's nothing there, but you get him that one time or that second time and it's over. I mean, he gets the ball, there's the hole, and you just, tell the band to start playing because he's going to score. And you look back now, I know, after the game they're talking about, well, it takes us sometimes. He was getting ready for 6 games and all of that, but he looks like he's ready.
Yeah. Well, that kind of begs the question. And when talking about Stepp, talking about Keenan, those are guys that kind of waited in the depth chart. I know USC fans are kind of asking now, well, why were they so far behind in the depth chart? I know things like pass protection, other things like that matter when you're a starter, but do you think they should have maybe pushed them further a little bit earlier in the games, in the season?
Yes, absolutely. No question about it. I mean, when you see Marquis Stepp do what he did on that touchdown, that's spectacular for a 235-pound kid who can stop on a dime, shed the linebacker, and just run by everybody through, arm tackles that just have no chance of stopping him. And then Keenan Kristin, when you have a player, if you give him the ball in the right situation, he can be 55 yards from the goal line. It doesn't matter. They're not going to touch him. Yeah. It's like, hello, come on, let's go. More of that, please. But that was impressive. It tells you, this recruiting class from last year wasn't as highly ranked as USC's usually are, but I think it's going to turn out to be a really good freshman class. A lot of 3-stars. Somebody in the recruiting department said, this kid's a pretty good 3-star, isn't he? I said, yeah, he's pretty good 3-star.
Yeah, and Clay Helton said as much in his post-game presser. Now, when it comes to the offense, coming into this game, we thought it was going to be on them to really ease the pressure off of the defense just because of the injuries that they had coming into it. But it really was USC's defense that set up USC's offense with those turnovers. They were a little anemic on offense tonight. I talked to Graham Harrell, and he said that Kedon Slovis was the most hesitant he's seen so far this season. How much do you place that 3 and out, the anemicness of the offense on Kedon Slovis tonight?
Well, Keaton placed it on himself. He said this was on me. That was the slow start. He said they weren't doing exactly what we thought they were going to do or what we'd seen them do. And he said, I just wasn't reading it. I wasn't seeing it. and I wasn't disciplined enough to get it right. But he said that was on me, that slow start. And this is, the kind of game where, I think everything goes into the game. I thought Ben Griffin had a really good game punting the football and made life difficult for them, and got that first turnover. And I just think you need all those things to go together, especially when you're down some starters. And I thought they got those things that they often haven't gotten to go together with them all kind of work together. And so you can overcome a night where Keaton was a little flat, and he just said, yeah, I just wasn't quite with it.
Yeah. And now for, I guess, what everyone's waiting for, the injury updates. Now I'm going to read off just the list because, one, there's so many, and two, I just don't want to get it wrong. So Talanoa Hufanga left with a shoulder injury. I actually heard a coach describe it to someone that he effed up his shoulder, which doesn't sound good, especially given Talanoa's history with his shoulder and his clavicle. So that's just something to watch out for sure. Stephen Carr has a hamstring injury. I got to talk to him after the game, and he said he's all good. He said it's just a tweak, and he did a little dance just to prove how good he was. So he is, I think, is the most positive coming out. But Clay Helton in his post-game presser described all 6 of these injuries as significant. And then Marquis Stepp has an ankle injury. We saw him exit with a boot out of the locker room. He was in good spirits, though, but still had that crutch walking with, so something to watch out for sure. Drake Jackson also has an ankle. Came back in the third quarter, I believe, with a boot and a crutch, so another development to watch for. Abdul Malik McLean injured his shoulder. He just got healthy, too, and made that tackle on Khalil Tate, and then he knew immediately it was that shoulder. And I actually could hear him a couple yards down from the medical tent screaming for the first couple minutes when he came off the field, so it looked like a bad injury for him. And then Munir McLean, his brother, also injured himself. He said that his knee got stuck in the turf when he caught that pass, and he left with a big brace on his knee. And Munir actually tore his ACL and meniscus in high school, and so that's something to watch out for. He gets an MRI tomorrow, but it just didn't look good for both McLean brothers. But Clay Helton seemed a little somber in his post-game presser, just because I think these injuries are significant, like he said, but I think it's weighing on him as well, knowing that you might be down some key guys going forward.
Yeah, we were watching the USC has a triple seat cart, and both McLean brothers were on the cart, and the parents walking out with them. And what great parents in terms of being really upbeat for those two kids. And because we were coming down and we saw the catch, but we didn't realize who was hurt, and everybody was around him. And then they pick him up, and he kind of limps right by us, and I thought, oh my gosh, both McLean brothers. How tough is that? And I know their mom said, I'm going to be upbeat for these guys, because that's what you got to be. And I know Munir, as they left, had a big smile on his face, and it looked like he was dealing with it really as well as you could hope. And so we'll see where this goes. But there were just so many of those guys that were getting that chance tonight, and they came through. And I think that was the thing that people felt, oh man, these guys were getting their chance. They were doing what we want them to do, what they want to do, and here they go. I know Brett Nealon said, makes you sick to your stomach, kind of. It was a tough deal. Yeah,
a lot of guys said that they were just disgusted and sick about what they saw with their teammates. But this is also a worse. You never want these many injuries, but it's the worst week to have it, just because USC has a short week, heads on the road to Colorado on Friday. If you're Clay Helton and coaches, how do you get this team ready given how many injuries that they have?
I think in a way, because it is such a short week, you just don't worry about guys coming back. You just say, we'll see it in 2 weeks for the Oregon game. And if it's so obvious that you can come back, fine, but we're not going to, we're just going to play with who we got. And we're going to go to Oregon. We're going to go to Colorado and just make it happen. They made it happen tonight, and we're going to just go with who we got. And I think that's all you can do at this point. I don't think you can spend any time sitting around worrying or wondering when they're going to be back or whatever. You just, like this week, you had to go without Palaie. And I know you could have sat around and said, oh, is he out of his boot yet? Are we going to have him back? Or you get Canin ready to go. And Canin got ready to go and probably had the best performance by an inside linebacker all year. So that's what you can have happen with this USC team, and that's all you can do at this point. You just get them ready to go. Whoever's ready, go get them.
Yeah. Now, looking big picture, specifically at the Pac12 South race, USC has the same record as Utah in the South, but they have that tiebreaker over it, so USC is at the top of the Pac12 South race. Given how up and down we've seen this team play, do you think that they can play with a consistency where they can control their destiny and reach that Pac12 championship game like Clay Helton says that they can?
Well, I like the way they coached them up this week on defense. I thought they really got their act together in so many different ways, and it showed out there on the field. So, there may be different thoughts about how they practice or whatever, but I thought, in terms of the way they got the defense ready, which is the thing they had to have ready, heck of a job this week. And they got, maybe they got lucky a little bit that a couple of guys got hurt, and all of a sudden you got Keenan Kristin out there, and oh, he's pretty good. Maybe we ought to give him the ball more. As Clay said, when you look at the rest of the injuries at running back, he's probably going to be a big part of our game plan for the Colorado game. I think that probably would be a good idea. And now if I'm Colorado, I'm thinking, where did that guy come from? What do we? So that's probably a little bit of a frustration for some of the other teams in the Pac-12, where if they would have lost the number of guys that USC's lost, they'd be in big trouble.
Yeah.
USC, you don't know that next man up is going to be able to do what some of these guys did tonight, but they did.
Yeah.
And, that's always the possibility at USC.
Yeah, that's a great point. Alrighty, any final thoughts, Dan, before we wrap it up here in the Coliseum?
Yeah, this was fun. I thought the kids had fun playing out there tonight. They didn't look like they were looking over their shoulder or worrying about this or that. They just went out and played fast. I really like it when they're playing fast. I just think that's the way you got to play. You can't be tentative, can't be thinking about things. And I just really, and it probably is a little to the credit of Arizona. Arizona focuses you on, you've got to play fast. You can't not play fast with Khalil Tate and J.J. Taylor out there. And those kids really bought into that. And it's a kind of a different looking team when they're playing fast and running around and just having fun. And, they may not have perfect form tackles all the time, but if you get there, fast enough in a kind of a destructive mood, you can run over people. I mean, you can just run them down. I mean, I don't think we've seen that kind of a pass rush from so many different people as we saw tonight. I mean, they really were chasing. Arizona's kids were running for the hills. I mean, they didn't know which way to turn, and it wasn't like there was somebody coming this way. There was somebody coming this way, somebody coming that way, somebody coming up the middle. They were just flying, and USC's got the athletes to do that. It's a lot of fun to watch it when they actually just do it, when they play like they're the athletes that they are.
Yep. 7 sacks on the night. I'm not sure if we mentioned that, but worth noting.
11 tackles for losses.
Yep.
So.
Good night for the defense. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up here from the Coliseum. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.